Dean Varric Solon stood at the edge of the training grounds, his chitinous plating reflecting the harsh light of 3 suns. His compound eyes swept across the field where the newest recruits of the Galactic Defense Academy performed their final evaluation. These were not ordinary cadets. These were Kresh, apex predators from a death world where survival meant killing before being killed. The Kresh Cubs, as they were called despite standing over 2 meters tall, moved through the obstacle course with lethal precision. Their movements were synchronized, calculated, disciplined. This was impossible. Kresh did not work in units. They were solitary hunters, fierce and untamable. Every previous attempt to integrate them into military structure had ended in blood and failure. Yet here they were, moving as one organism. "Explain this," Varric demanded, turning to his second-in-command, a 4-armed Quillian named Tesk. Tesk's quills flattened nervously. "Dean Solon, the results speak for themselves. 0 casualties during training. Perfect cooperation scores. They have exceeded every metric." "That is not what I asked." Varric's mandibles clicked with irritation. "Who trained them?" Tesk hesitated. "Oh, the human, sir." Varric's entire body went rigid. "The human? You assigned a human to train Kresh predators?" Lieutenant Mara Dean volunteered when no one else would take the assignment. "The council approved." "The council," Varric hissed, "is composed of soft-worlders who have never seen a Kresh feed. Do you know what those creatures did to the last training battalion?" "Yes, sir. 17 dead, 34 wounded." "But Dean Solon, that was before Lieutenant Deany. Bring them here. Now. All of them." Lieutenant Mara Dean stood quietly behind her cubs as they assembled in perfect formation before the Dean. She was small by galactic standards, barely reaching the chest plates of her towering students. Her uniform was simple, worn at the edges, and she carried no visible weapons. To Varric, she looked absurdly fragile. The Kresh stood at attention, their razor-sharp claws retracted, their triple rows of teeth hidden behind closed jaws. Their eyes, those terrible, slitted eyes that saw an infrared and could track a heartbeat from 100 meters, remained fixed forward. "I am told," Varric began, circling the formation slowly, "that you cubs have achieved what no Kresh unit has ever achieved: cooperation, discipline, control." He stopped before the largest of them, a scarred male named Thrax. "Tell me, cub, who taught you these things?" Thrax did not move, did not speak. His eyes, however, shifted, not his head. Just his eyes. They moved to the left, landing on the human standing quietly at the formation's edge. Varric followed the gaze, then returned to Thrax. "I asked you a question, Predator. You will answer with words." Thrax's throat vibrated with a deep rumble, but he said nothing. Once again his eyes moved. To Lieutenant Dean, frustrated, Varric moved to the next cub. A female named Sira, smaller but with scars that told of a brutal upbringing. "You answer me. Who trained you?" Sira's eyes flicked left. To the human, Varric's plating flushed dark purple with anger. He moved down the line, asking each cub the same question. Each time, the response was identical. Not a word spoken. Only those predatory eyes moving in perfect unison, pointing to Lieutenant Mara Dean. Finally, Varric turned to face the human directly. "Lieutenant, what sorcery is this? What have you done to them?" Mara met his gaze calmly. "I taught them, Dean Solon, nothing more. Kresh cannot be taught. They are predators, killers. They respond only to dominance and fear." "With respect, sir, that's not entirely accurate." Mara's voice was soft, but steady. "They respond to trust." "Trust?" Varric's laugh was a harsh clicking sound. "You cannot trust a Kresh. They will tear you apart the moment you show weakness." "I never showed weakness, Dean." Mara stepped forward, and Varric noticed something he had missed before. The cubs tracked her movement not with aggression, but with something else. Something that looked almost like devotion. "I showed them respect." "Respect." Varric spat the word. "You are prey to them. How did prey earn a predator's respect?" Mara glanced at her cubs, and something passed between them. A silent communication that made Varric's antennae twitch with unease. "On their second day of training, Thrax tried to kill me. He was testing boundaries as Kresh do. I didn't run. I didn't call for help. I met his challenge. Impossible. He would be dead. I'm faster than I look." A small smile touched Mara's lips, "and I understand predator psychology better than most." When he lunged, I didn't fight back. I stepped inside his guard and placed my hand over his primary heart. Not to strike, just to rest it there. I looked him in the eyes and I waited. Varric stared at her. You waited? For him to understand. That I could have killed him but chose not to. In Kresh culture, sparing a defeated opponent is the highest form of respect. It says you are worthy of life. From that moment he understood that I was not prey. I was pack. The Dean looked at Thrax, whose eyes had not left the human. Is this true, cub? For the first time Thrax spoke, his voice a deep growl. The human knows the old ways. Better than we do. She carries the spirit of a hunter, though her claws are small. His eyes gleamed with something that might have been pride. She is Alpha. We follow. Varric felt something shift in his understanding. He had spent decades studying warfare, tactics, and discipline. But this human had done something far more profound. She had not trained killers to be soldiers. She had earned the loyalty of predators by proving herself worthy of it. Lieutenant Dine, Varric said slowly, the Council will want a full report on your methods. Of course, sir. And... He paused, his compound eyes studying her with new respect. You will train the next battalion as well. If you can do this with Kresh, perhaps humanity truly does belong in the stars. Mara nodded, and behind her, 7 pairs of predatory eyes gleamed with fierce pride. Because when the Dean had asked who trained them, they had not needed words, they had pointed, with their eyes, to the human who had earned their souls.